Have you ever been told that if you just keep walking every day after 60, you'll stay healthy and strong? It's one of those pieces of advice we've all heard for decades, simple, safe, and reassuring. And yes, walking does have wonderful benefits. It clears the mind, keeps the blood flowing, and gives us that sense of being active. But what if I told you that walking alone might not be the golden ticket to aging well? In fact, for many women, relying only on steps could actually be leaving your body weaker, stiffer, and more vulnerable than you realize. I can't tell you how many times I've had women sit across from me in my office with a proud smile. They say, "Dr. Perriera, I never miss my morning walk. I hit 6,000, sometimes 7,000 steps a day, and I always celebrate that commitment with them." But then a few months later, those same women return with puzzled looks and aching joints. Their knees start to complain. Their balance feels shaky. Their backs feel tighter, not looser. And they ask me the same question. How can this be happening when I've been so consistent? Here's the truth. Walking is like watering a plant every single day. Necessary. Absolutely. But if that plant never gets sunlight, fresh soil, or nutrients, it slowly withers no matter how faithfully you pour water on it. Your body after 60 is that plant. Walking is good water, but it is not the whole picture. After menopause, your body needs more than repetitive steps. It needs strong muscles to protect your bones, flexible joints to keep you moving freely, good balance to prevent dangerous falls, and a stable core to support your posture and even your breathing. If any one of these is neglected, walking alone won't save you. In fact, it may quietly steer you toward the very fragility you're hoping to avoid. I'm Dr. Lisa Perriera, a gynecologist who has spent over 30 years helping women like you move through menopause and beyond with health and dignity. And I want to share something I've learned from decades of listening to my patients aging well is not about how many steps you take. It's about how complete your movement is. Walking is a wonderful beginning, but it is only the beginning. That's why in this video, I'm going to show you 5 doctor-backed habits that go beyond walking. These simple practices protect your muscles, your balance, your joints, and your independence. They're not complicated, and they don't require fancy equipment. Most of them can be done right at home in just a few minutes a day. But the impact, it can be life-changing. And here's a little secret. The last tip I'll share is the one that so many women overlook, yet it may be the most powerful factor in how gracefully you age. Stay with me until the end. You won't want to miss it. But before we dive in, I'd love to know, is walking your main form of exercise right now? Just type yes in the comments if it is. Sharing your story might give another woman the courage to rethink her own routine. And I promise, I read every single one. So let's get started. Let's look at why walking is wonderful but incomplete, and discover the missing pieces that will help you stay vibrant, independent, and full of energy at every age. So let's talk about what really happens when walking is the only form of exercise you rely on. At first, it feels like the safest choice. You're moving, you're outside, maybe even chatting with a friend or neighbor. But with time, certain gaps begin to show, and they can surprise you. One of the biggest is muscle loss. Many women believe that as long as they walk every day, their muscles must be strong. But walking doesn't actually challenge the muscles that keep you independent, the ones that let you rise from a chair, carry groceries, or lift a grandchild. After menopause, a silent process begins called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. The National Institutes of Health tells us that women can lose 1 to 2% of their muscle mass every year after 60 if nothing is done. Think about that. It may not sound like much, but over a decade, that adds up to real weakness. I think of Janet, a vibrant 68-year-old who walked faithfully every morning. But one day she bent down to pick up her granddaughter and her back gave out. She looked at me bewildered because she thought she had been active. The truth was, walking never strengthened her core or her glutes. Without resistance, her body had slowly lost its armor. Another hidden risk is balance. Most women assume that balance will simply stay with them. After all, you've been walking all your life, so why should it fade? But balance is not automatic. It's a skill, and like any skill, it fades when we stop practicing it. Here's something many don't realize: falls are the number one reason women over 70 are hospitalized, not illness. That fact alone should make us pause. I'll never forget Maria, a 74-year-old retired nurse. She told me she nearly fell while stepping off a curb, her heart racing as her body hesitated for just a second. It wasn't weakness in her legs, it was her balance reflexes slowing down. That single slip terrified her more than any ache or pain ever had. And then there's flexibility and mobility. Walking is a straight-line movement, one foot in front of the other, over and over. It doesn't stretch your shoulders, it doesn't rotate your spine, it doesn't open your hips. But real life requires all of those things, turning to grab something from the back seat, reaching for a high shelf, bending to tie a shoe. When those motions disappear from daily life, stiffness creeps in. Elaine, 72, came to me feeling old, not because of pain, but because she could no longer garden. She couldn't squat to the ground, couldn't twist her torso comfortably. Her joints weren't broken, they were simply underused. And finally, let's talk about joints. Walking is often advertised as the ultimate low-impact exercise. And yes, it is gentler than running. But over time, walking on hard pavement with the same repetitive motion day after day can put strain on your knees, hips, and ankles, especially if your muscles aren't strong enough to absorb the impact. Think of it like driving a car with the wheels out of alignment. Every trip adds more wear and tear until suddenly something breaks down. That's what happens when cartilage slowly thins, or when pain sets in after years of healthy daily walks. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Walking alone doesn't protect you from muscle loss, it doesn't sharpen your balance, it doesn't keep your joints safe, and it doesn't make you more flexible. In fact, it may quietly lead you toward exactly what you're trying to avoid: weakness, stiffness, and fragility. The good news is none of these risks are permanent. They can all be addressed, often with simple adjustments you can make at home. In the next part, I'll share practical, doctor-backed solutions, small, realistic habits that complement walking and fill in the gaps. You'll learn how just 10 minutes of the right kind of exercise can help you stand taller, move with confidence, and even protect you from falls. And the third one I'm going to share may surprise you. Most women have never been told about it, but it might be the missing piece that changes everything about how well you age. Before we go, let me ask you, have you noticed that despite walking daily, you still feel stiff, unsteady, or achy in your joints? If so, you're not alone. Share your story in the comments. I can almost guarantee another woman will read it and think that's me too. And sometimes realizing we're not alone is the first step toward change. So how do we fill in the gaps? If walking alone isn't enough, what else does your body truly need after 60? The answer isn't complicated. In fact, the best solutions are simple, low cost, and surprisingly easy to begin. Let me walk you through them one by one. The first piece is strength. Think of your muscles as the scaffolding that holds up a building. Without strong scaffolding, the entire structure becomes fragile. After menopause, muscle mass naturally declines, and that decline accelerates with every passing year. But here's the good news: muscles respond at any age. I've seen women in their 70s and even 80s rebuild strength with just a few minutes of resistance work each week. You don't need heavy weights or a gym membership. Start small, stand up from a chair without using your hands, hold a soup can in each hand, and do gentle curls or try wall push-ups while waiting for your tea to steep. One of my patients, Helen, age 72, began with nothing more than sitting and standing from a chair 10 times each morning. Within 6 weeks, she felt steadier, more confident, and even noticed she could open tight jars again, something she hadn't done in years. That's the power of strength. The second piece is balance. Walking moves you forward, but it doesn't train your inner ear, your ankle stabilizers, or your sense of where your body is in space. Balance is like a smoke alarm. You don't notice it until it fails, and by then the damage may be done. But here's the hopeful truth. Balance can be trained just like any other skill. Start by standing on one foot near a countertop. If you feel steady, close your eyes and notice how different it feels. Practice walking heel to toe across the room or step sideways while lightly touching the wall. David, a 75-year-old retired bus driver, told me he began doing just 3 minutes of balance drills every morning. Within weeks, he stopped reaching for furniture as he walked around the house. That small change gave him back a sense of freedom he thought was gone forever. The third piece is flexibility and mobility. Life doesn't happen in straight lines. You twist, bend, reach, and stretch every single day. If you don't keep your joints moving in these directions, they slowly lock up. And when they lock up, simple tasks, like looking over your shoulder while driving or tying your shoes, can feel impossible. The fix is not complicated, gentle neck rotations, while seated, sweeping your arms overhead in a slow circle, twisting your torso gently in a chair, or reaching down toward your toes while breathing deeply. Marlene, 78, came to me frustrated that she couldn't garden anymore because of stiffness. Her physical therapist gave her a series of mobility exercises, and within a month, she was back in her flower beds, digging happily. Sometimes all your body is asking for is a little variety. The fourth piece is your core and posture. Walking doesn't do much for the deep muscles that keep you upright and stable. After 60, if your core weakens, your posture can begin to collapse, shoulders, rounding lower back, aching breathing, becoming shallow. Think of your core as the foundation of a house. If the foundation cracks, the whole house begins to shift. But even a few minutes a day can reset it. Try standing with your heels, hips, and head against a wall for 2 minutes. Practice breathing deeply while tightening your lower abdomen, or tilt your pelvis gently forward and backward while sitting in a chair. Leonard, a 76-year-old former engineer, once told me these tiny daily drills reduced his back pain by more than half. He also noticed he could breathe more deeply, something he hadn't realized he was missing. And finally, let's protect the joints. Walking is healthy, but repetition on hard surfaces can grind down the knees and hips. What your joints crave is variety and support. That might mean trading 1 or 2 walking sessions each week for water aerobics, chair yoga, or cycling on a recumbent bike. Even Tai Chi, a beautiful flowing practice, has been shown in studies from the Mayo Clinic to improve balance and reduce joint stress. Malcolm, 79, a lifelong hiker, discovered that by replacing 2 of his weekly walks with pool exercises, the swelling in his knees finally eased, and he could enjoy walking again without dread. Joint care isn't about doing less, it's about doing smarter. The beauty of all these practices is that they don't require hours of your day. 10 to 15 minutes 2 or 3 times a week can be enough to make a measurable difference. Strength balance, flexibility, posture, and joint care together, they form the missing pieces that walking alone can never provide. So here's my question for you. If you had to choose one area to start with today, which would it be? strength balance, flexibility, posture, or joint protection? Share it in the comments below. Not only will it help you commit, but your choice might inspire another woman watching this right now to take her first step too. When I think about the women who have embraced these changes, I'm reminded of how powerful small shifts can be. Let me share a few stories with you, because sometimes hearing how someone else transformed makes us believe we can too. Helen, the 72-year-old I mentioned earlier, used to walk 5,000 steps every single morning. She was disciplined and consistent. But then her knee buckled one afternoon as she tried to carry a bag of groceries. That scare shook her confidence. When her doctor suggested adding strength training, she hesitated. She said, "Dr. Perriera, I'm not the gym type. I don't want to lift heavy weights or look ridiculous." But we started small wall push-ups, squats, while brushing her teeth, lifting water bottles. Within 6 weeks, she called me laughing with joy because she could open a pickle jar for the first time in years. That may sound like a small victory, but to Helen, it symbolized independence. She realized her body could still respond, still grow stronger, even in her 70s. Marlene, at 78, thought her gardening days were over. Her back stiffened, her hips felt locked, and she assumed this was simply old age. When she began gentle mobility drills, spinal twists, arm sweeps, neck rotations, she discovered something remarkable. Within a month, she wasn't just moving more easily. She was back kneeling in her flower beds, planting tomatoes. I'll never forget the sparkle in her eyes when she told me I thought the garden was lost to me forever. Now it feels like I've gotten a part of my life back. And then there's Leonard, 76, who had prided himself on standing tall his whole life. Slowly, though, his posture began to crumble. His shoulders rounded forward, his breathing grew shallow, and he found himself leaning on the counter when cooking. His daughter noticed and pushed him to see a movement specialist. With simple posture resets, standing against a wall, practicing deep breathing, tilting his pelvis gently each evening, Leonard experienced a dramatic change. Within weeks, his back pain eased by more than half, and he told me he could take deeper breaths. He joked that he even sang louder in church again. What changed was not just his spine, it was his sense of dignity, of standing tall in the world. And Malcolm, the lifelong hiker who loved his daily 3-mile walks, found himself limping with swollen knees. He believed this was simply the cost of aging. But by swapping 2 of his walks each week for aquatic exercise and chair yoga, the swelling subsided, and he could once again look forward to his walks without dread. He told me, "For the first time in years, I don't hear my joints complaining." These stories all have one thing in common: none of these patients made massive, overwhelming changes. They didn't spend hours in the gym or overhaul their entire lives. They made small, consistent adjustments, just 10 or 15 minutes here and there, that rewrote their aging process. Think of it this way. Imagine your body as a symphony orchestra. Walking is the violin, a beautiful instrument, essential, but not the whole symphony. Without the drums of strength, the flutes of flexibility, the trumpets of balance, and the deep bass of posture, the music is thin and incomplete. But when all the instruments play together, the music of your life becomes rich, powerful, and harmonious. That's what complete movement does for your body. Too many women assume aging is like a downhill slope. Once you start losing strength or balance, it's all decline. But the truth is, closer to a garden, if you tend to it with care, watering, fertilizing, pruning, it flourishes again and again. Your body is that garden. It responds to what you give it, whether you're 60, 70, or even 80. So if you've been thinking, "It's too late for me," I want you to hear this: it is never too late. I've seen women in their 80s build muscle, regain balance, and rediscover joys they thought were gone. And the moment you start, even with the smallest exercise, you've told your body, I still believe in you. And your body will answer back. In the next section, I'll bring everything together. The lessons from these stories, the science behind them, and a roadmap you can follow. We'll recap the key strategies, and more importantly, I'll leave you with a hopeful vision of what aging can look like when you give your body the complete care it deserves. But before we continue, I want to ask you which of these stories resonated with you most, Helen, with her pickle jar, Marlene, with her garden, Leonard standing taller, or Malcolm finding joy in his walks again. Share it in the comments. Sometimes one person's transformation can light the spark for another. Now that we've walked through these stories and the science behind them, let's bring it all together. Walking is a beautiful habit. It clears your mind, strengthens your heart, and gives rhythm to your days. But it is not the whole picture. Relying on steps alone doesn't build the muscle that protects your independence. It doesn't sharpen your balance, which is the single most important defense against falls. It doesn't stretch and rotate your body in the ways life requires. And it doesn't protect your joints from the wear of repetitive impact. What your body truly needs after 60 is a fuller spectrum of movement. Strength training, even in the gentlest forms, preserves your muscle and prevents sarcopenia. Balance drills sharpen your reflexes and give you confidence with every step. Flexibility and mobility work keep you supple, so daily tasks don't become obstacles. Core and posture training reset the foundation of your body, helping you breathe better and stand tall. And joint-friendly alternatives to walking give you variety, so you can continue enjoying walks without pain or fear. Think back to the women and men we spoke about today. Helen rediscovered her independence with a few minutes of strength training. Marlene reclaimed her garden with mobility work. Leonard found dignity again by standing taller through posture exercises. Malcolm restored his joy for walking by giving his joints a break with water exercise. None of them reversed time, but they proved that even small, consistent steps can change the way we age. And here's what I want you to remember. Most aging is not a steady decline. It is a process of adaptation. Your body is always listening to what you give it. When you offer it variety, support, and challenge, it responds with resilience. At 70, at 80, even beyond your body can still surprise you. So I invite you to reflect, which of these 5 areas will you focus on first? Will it be building strength, sharpening your balance, stretching for flexibility, resetting your posture, or protecting your joints? Write your answer in the comments. Your decision might inspire another woman watching right now, someone who needs a little nudge to begin. And if this video spoke to you, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and share it with a friend or sister who might need encouragement. Together, we're building a community of women over 60 who believe in aging, not just longer, but stronger and more gracefully. Imagine yourself a year from now, moving with more ease, carrying groceries without hesitation, bending to play with your grandchildren, walking without pain, and standing taller with confidence. That future is possible. It begins not with a massive overhaul, but with one small choice you make today. And before we close, let me remind you this video is for educational purposes only. It does not replace medical advice. Every woman's body is unique. If you are experiencing pain, significant changes, or have personal concerns, please consult with your healthcare provider. Your well-being deserves personalized care.